Welcome to a podcast to Philippe. Today, we're going to take a deep dive into the world of AI and how it's changing things, everyday things like supermarkets.
Yeah.
So imagine this, okay? You're at the self-checkout and the system can actually tell if you're trying to, get away with something.
Mm,
It sounds futuristic, right?
it does.
But this is actually happening right now
Yeah.
in France,
Hmm.
Intermarché and Netto. They're these supermarket chains.
Right.
They're rolling out these AI-powered systems to catch theft and or even just forgetfulness at those self-checkout kiosks.
It's a big deal, too, because fraud at the traditional checkout lanes with a cashier, it's only around 1%.
Right.
But at those self-checkouts, it jumps to 4%.
That's crazy. So in this episode, we're going to unpack all of this, this new technology, its impact on both shoppers and the stores themselves, and of course the inevitable privacy questions that it raises.
All the big stuff.
Absolutely. And if you find this interesting, be sure to subscribe to Le Podcast de Philippe on YouTube for more deep dives like this one.
That's right.
So let's jump right in.
Okay.
Can you tell us a bit more about this technology? How does it actually work?
Yeah, so this new system, it's called Dynamic Smart Vision.
Okay.
It uses cameras and algorithms to basically analyze shopper behavior at the self-checkout.
So it's like having a digital detective watching your every move.
Pretty much,
Yeah.
yeah. It's been trained on a huge data set, over 15,000 transactions,
Wow.
and it can recognize 20 different types of fraudulent scenarios.
So what kind of scenarios?
Well, things like trying to hide items, in your bag or under other things.
Right.
Or not scanning products properly. Maybe you forget to scan that extra avocado.
Or switching barcodes. I've heard people do that.
Exactly. Like trying to get a cheaper price by swapping a barcode from a less expensive item.
Wow, that's pretty clever, but I guess not clever enough to fool this AI.
Not anymore.
So this technology is catching all those sneaky little tricks people try to pull.
Yeah, and it's interesting, because there have been cases in the past where people have really exploited those older self-checkout systems.
Like what? Any specific examples?
Well, there was this story about a young man in Montbéliard. He actually managed to buy a PlayStation.
A PlayStation? Seriously?
Seriously, for the price of a bag of apples.
No way. How did he do that?
He somehow figured out a way to manipulate the system.
Wow. So I guess the older self-checkouts were a bit too easy to trick.
Maybe a little too easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even Walmart, that huge retail giant, even they decided to scale back their self-checkout rollout because of all the theft.
Really? I thought Walmart was all about embracing new technology.
They are, but they also realize that sometimes the old ways are better,
Uh,
At least when it comes to preventing theft. They ended up bringing back more traditional cashier lanes.
that's pretty surprising. So do you think this new AI system could be the key to restoring faith in self-checkouts?
It could be. It'll be interesting to see, if it actually helps reduce theft and makes those self-checkouts a more reliable option.
For both the shoppers and the stores.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But of course, there's always the other side of the coin, the concerns about privacy.
Right, because nobody wants to feel like they're being constantly watched while they're just trying to buy groceries.
Absolutely.
So how do we balance that need for security with, people's right to privacy?
Yeah, it's a tough question, finding that balance between security and privacy.
It really is.
Especially in a place like a supermarket where people just want to get their shopping done quickly and easily.
Exactly. Nobody wants to feel like they're being scrutinized,
Yeah.
for every item they pick up.
Right. Like you're suddenly a suspect just because you took a little extra time to choose the perfect avocado.
Exactly. But I guess the question is, does this surveillance actually create a more positive shopping experience overall?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, the people who are in favor of this technology, they argue that it can actually lead to some real benefits, both for the shoppers and the stores.
Like making those self-checkouts actually efficient.
Exactly. Because right now they can be kind of a pain. You accidentally miss scanning something or you have trouble finding the code for your weird organic kale.
Oh, and then the whole thing comes to a screeching halt.
Right. And then you need to call an employee over and everybody's just standing there waiting.
So this AI could help speed things up.
Yeah, that's the idea. By reducing theft and those accidental forgetfulness moments, the supermarkets could actually save a lot of money.
And hopefully those savings would get passed on to us, the shoppers.
Right, lower prices. That's always a good thing.
So more efficiency, lower prices, everybody wins. It sounds almost too good to be true.
It does. And we do need to think about the potential downsides as well.
Like what? What are the concerns?
Well, privacy is obviously a big one. Even with all those safeguards in place, the blurred faces and the data being deleted, it's still a little creepy to think that you're being constantly watched.
Yeah, I mean, it's like having an invisible jury judging every single thing you put in your basket.
It does raise those questions, like how much surveillance are we willing to accept just for the sake of convenience?
Right. And what about those mistakes? The potential for the AI to get it wrong. What if it thinks I'm shoplifting when I'm just, fumbling with my wallet?
Yeah, that's a valid concern. These systems are still under development and they're not perfect.
I mean, I'd hate to be falsely accused of stealing just because the AI had a little glitch.
That would be a nightmare. And then there's the whole question of the human element. What happens to all the cashiers? Will they just be replaced by robots?
Yeah, I actually kind of enjoy the little chat I sometimes have with the cashier, even if it takes a little longer.
I know what you mean. It's a human connection.
Exactly. And it's something that we could lose if these AI systems become too widespread.
Some experts think that AI will actually just augment human workers, rather than replacing them completely.
So, like, the AI could handle the basic tasks, and the employees could focus on more specialized things, like helping customers find products or, just providing a friendly face.
Exactly. But we also need to be realistic. There's definitely a possibility of job displacement as these technologies become more common.
So it's a balancing act, weighing the potential benefits against the risks and those unintended consequences.
That's exactly it.
So what should shoppers keep in mind, as these AI systems start showing up in more and more supermarkets?
Well, I think the most important thing is to be informed and engaged.
Informed and engaged.
Yeah.
Okay, but how do we actually do that? I mean, we can't exactly opt out of the self-checkout lane if we're not comfortable with the AI.
That's true. But we can start by asking questions. Ask the supermarket manager about the specific AI system they're using. What kind of data are they collecting? How are they protecting your privacy?
So we need to become supermarket detectives, investigating the AI that's lurking behind the scanners.
In a way, yes. The more we understand about these technologies, the better equipped we'll be to navigate this whole new world of shopping.
Knowledge is power.
Right.
Exactly.
But it's tough to keep up with all these advancements in AI. It's a lot to process. It really is.
Yeah.
And that's why these conversations are so important.
But to help us make sense of it all and figure out how to embrace the benefits of this technology without, sacrificing our privacy or our humanity.
Absolutely. It's all about finding that balance where technology can actually make our lives better without compromising our values.
Well said. Okay, so we've been talking about these AI systems in supermarkets,
How they work, the benefits, the risks.
all that good stuff. But now I kind of want to zoom out a little bit.
Yeah.
Look at the bigger picture.
Okay. The societal impact.
Exactly. What are the larger trends at play here?
Well, one of the biggest trends is automation. Like it's everywhere, right? Self-driving cars, smart homes, and now these AI-powered supermarkets. It's like we're living in the future.
It's kind of crazy when you think about it.
It is. And it makes you wonder, what happens when machines start making more and more of the decisions that humans used to make?
Well, I guess it depends on what kinds of decisions we're talking about.
True. Right. Like there's a big difference between an AI deciding if you scanned your groceries correctly and an AI deciding, whether a self-driving car should slam on the brakes.
Right. The stakes are a lot higher in some situations.
Definitely. But even in those seemingly low-stakes situations like in a supermarket, there's still this shift in power. We're giving algorithms more and more control over our lives.
That's a good point. It raises all these questions about transparency and accountability.
Exactly. Like, who's responsible when an AI system makes a mistake? How can we be sure that these systems are being fair and unbiased?
Those are tough questions.
They are. And they're questions we need to be asking ourselves, as we become more and more reliant on AI.
So how do we make sure that this technology is used responsibly?
Yeah.
In a way that actually benefits everyone?
Well, there's no easy answer. But one important step is to make sure that a lot of different voices are involved in the process. Not just the tech people, but also ethicists, social scientists, people from the communities that are going to be most affected.
So it's about bringing everyone to the table, having those tough conversations about the potential risks and benefits.
Exactly. It can't just be the tech companies calling all the shots.
And this is a conversation that needs to be happening constantly,
Right.
right? Because AI is just going to keep evolving.
Absolutely. We can't just have this conversation once and then forget about it.
It's like we're all on this journey together,
Yeah.
figuring out how to navigate this new world where technology is playing a bigger and bigger role.
That's a great way to put it.
So I guess the key takeaway here is that we all need to be informed and engaged.
Yeah. Don't just blindly accept whatever these new technologies are offering.
Ask questions, Do your research make your voice heard?
Exactly. Because the future of AI isn't set in stone. It's up to us to shape it in a way that aligns with our values.
Well said. I think that's a great place to wrap up our deep dive.
Yeah, it's been a fascinating conversation.
We've covered a lot of ground,
Yeah.
from the nitty-gritty details of how these systems work to those big philosophical questions about the role of technology in our lives.
Hopefully, we've given our listeners some food for thought.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
And if you're hungry for more insightful conversations like this one, be sure to subscribe to Le Podcast de Philippe on YouTube.
We'll be back soon with another deep dive into a fascinating topic.
Until then, stay curious and keep exploring.